Thank you.
But that's, yeah, you know.
Next meeting is May 3rd.
Second?
Oh, 2nd. I'm sorry.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 7:01. Roll call, please, Sandy.
Yes, we have Elissa Hurd, Mary Taggart, Joe Liggett, Sandy Slavin, Agent Dave Brissette, and Chair Kenny Baptiste.
Thank you. I'd like to inform everybody that this is being recorded for television. And first continued hearing will be notice of intent for Mike Lenahan, cleanup of Agawam Mill Pond.
Don't see our consultant here yet, but he must be coming on shortly, but I think I've seen most everybody up here. This is the third year for the treatment of invasive weeds at Agawam Mill Pond. And we've got all our, notices and so forth in, and it's pretty much a standard operation from the last couple of years, so I'm not sure if you have any questions. Dave's pretty well, I've been communicating with Dave. If anyone has a question regarding what we're doing out there, we've had the studies and we got the funding, and we were able to go out there in 2016, 2017, and now we're back for 2018.
Okay.
It's a limited treatment, 20 acres total out of a 150-acre pond.
Okay. David will highlight it. We'll go from there.
Does the consultant have the abutter cards?
The abutter cards.
Right, for notifying the abutters?
Yeah, we've got the proof, I got the proof of mailing, the same as you asked for before.
Right, does he have that, or do you have that?
I have it.
Okay,
You need that?
yeah.
Stamps.
Do you have the actual,
Green.
Notice that we sent?
the green cards or the actual individual receipts for the certifieds?
We didn't send certifieds, we
You
did
sent,
brass.
you sent certificate of mailing?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's what we.
Okay,
Quite an area, huh?
no, that's,
How many acres did you say?
okay, so this project site again is at the Agawam Mill Pond, and the project involves the application of herbicide within Agawam Mill Pond to control aquatic nuisance vegetation. This project again is a follow-up to the first two phases of treatment that were done within the pond over the last couple of years using the herbicide Clipper to control fanwort and water milfoil in the pond. It's proposed to spot treat approximately 15.1 acres of the pond that was previously treated in an effort to continue to control the invasive target species within these several areas that still have a higher concentration of the nuisance vegetation.
Excuse me, I apologize for that.
That's all right. As in the past two phases that were done, the herbicide is applied from a boat directly into the target areas. The herbicide will be applied by a certified, Mass-certified herbicide applicator. We did receive comments from Mass Natural Heritage on this project, and they did have several conditions which they want to be included in the order if the commission approves the project. And these conditions include that the Clipper concentration is not to exceed 1.2 parts per billion at the upstream face of the Agawam Mill Dam at any time during the Phase 3 treatment. That the project follow the proposed treatment map, which shows the target areas, and that's dated January 5th, 2018. And that the area be treated is not to exceed the 15.1 acres that's proposed to be treated. Also that water sampling be done as described to test for herbicide residue. And the last condition they mentioned, that if the treatment is not done this year for whatever reason, that the applicant could do the treatment in the following, one of the following years, 2019 through 2022. The Division of Marine Fisheries also commented on this project, and they do have some time of year restrictions as they have on past projects. So from March 15th to June 30th, and September 1st to October 31st, they don't want to see work. But in the first no work time frame, they do allow work to be done from June 20th on instead of the June 30th. They made an exception for this because they feel it's appropriate for the project. So we also have a DEP file number for the project. So at this point, I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions and the added conditions from Mass Natural Heritage, as stated, and also the time of year restrictions from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries and the additional comments they had relative to the project.
Okay.
Here's green cards.
Okay, then we'll take them.
Do you have your green cards? Green cards?
No, they don't have
No,
it for that,
that's-
because they use the certificate of mailing for that. So they don't
Oh, I
have-
saw it. I thought when he pulled up.
Okay, you have anything to add?
Well, Keith, I mean, Dave just pretty much painted it. I painted a little bit of the background for anybody that's new on the board. We go through all the DEP. There's a lot of DEP people, I can tell you that, so. We've met them all, so, I mean, but it's, you know, it takes, that's why we had to postpone last time. We're still waiting for one of the, you know, annual approvals, but they're all in line, and we hope to continue the good work that's been done. The pond, if anybody uses it, it's a public pond with a public boat ramp, so it's quite improved in the last couple of years from what it was, that's for sure.
Okay. Questions from the board? Sandy?
I told you I saw it.
You've done it the last 2 years,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
And what was the change in the pond? Was it a significant improvement for usage? I mean, were you able to paddle without your oars coming back covered with weed?
You have to come and try it, absolutely. Yeah, we did an upper section the first year, a lower section the second year, and pretty much all the navigable areas that you'd want to canoe in or boat in is clear. So these, the ongoing thing would be a modified, you know, like a spot treatments here and there, because like any weed that you might have in your own yard, they start to come back at some point in time, so that's where
So-
now is like a management phase.
So this Phase 3 treatment map that we have from Division Fisheries and Wildlife shows the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 specific sites you would be placing the herbicide on,
Well, that's probably,
or closer to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's close to that.
As opposed to
What-
a wide spray, like you first did a wide spray,
yeah, we did a
everything in
wide
that-
spread, yeah.
For the first two. Now, this is the third application, is specific sites.
Yeah, then you see maybe the widespread application didn't catch some areas, or less of it went in some areas, and so you get some regrowth. Eventually, you know, nothing eradicates these invasive weeds for permanent.
You just have to
forever.
keep coming back.
Yeah, so you come
Yes.
back and touch it up, and those locations are approximate. There's a pre-treatment field inspection that's done by Solitude, and then they will see if any change. That was based on observations last fall, so we're gonna base it on observations 2 weeks prior to the treatment so that we can make sure we get the areas that we need to get. But we're limited to 15 acres on a retreat, and we'll just move it around accordingly and then produce, you know, a revised, but it may even look identical to this map.
Right, so essentially, we'll do a survey early in the growing season, identify those areas with the greatest amount of regrowth, bearing in mind the footprint of area that we've committed to, but the actual locations may change
Tweak a bit,
slightly.
yes.
Right, but we'll submit a map both to the commission, DEP, and Natural Heritage prior to any implementation of the treatment.
Okay.
I have nothing else, thank you.
Joe?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Elisa?
No question.
Anybody in the audience? Seeing none?
I just, as a statement before I make a recommendation to close the hearing, I just recommend that you get all approvals that are necessary from all boards, committees, commissions, and departments before you start the work, and see Dave Bichette before you start. Saying that, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? For the motion?
I make a motion, we approve the project with the standard conditions with the 4 conditions mentioned on the April 13th, 2018 Division of Fisheries and Wildlife document, as opposed to trying to repeat all 4 of them. I make a recommend, and add to that the date restrictions for the application as defined in the March 21st, 2018 Division of Marine Fisheries memo, and that Conservation Commission Office receives a map of the final sites to be treated prior to treatment. Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You must come down and try it, okay?
Okay.
Bring your kayak.
Okay.
Charles A. Grace, Outback Engineering.
Okay. Okay.
Can you identify yourself for the record?
Jeff Youngquist, Outback Engineer.
Thank you.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Yes.
No.
Okay, David.
Okay, so this project site is at 6 C Street in the Pinehurst area. And this project involves the reconstruction of a retaining wall, and this is in the buffer zone to a coastal bank and also within a coastal flood zone. A timber retaining wall approximately 110 feet in length and approximately 3 to 5 feet in height is to be removed and replaced in the same general footprint with a stone retaining wall. The timber wall would be dismantled and removed from the site. A compacted subbase would be installed and a new stone would be constructed up from there in the same general location as the existing wall. At the last meeting, we had asked for some further detail in the wall construction. We have received a revised plan which does show some changes to the detail, which reflects some concrete to be placed behind the stone to hold it in place, with some rebar added to that as well. The area is a very limited workspace. It's a very small site, so it's going to have to be done in sections in terms of the construction of the wall, just because there's not enough room to place a lot of material on the property. We did get a DEP file number for this project, so at this time I would recommend the issuance of the orders of conditions with the standard conditions and the added conditions that all of the old material be removed from the site and disposed of according to all applicable local, state, and federal laws. Some of it may be creosote contaminated, so that needs to be done properly. And other than that, I have no further comments.
Have anything to add?
Nope, he's got it.
Okay. Sandy? Questions?
Do you plan to store the old materials on site or remove them
They'll be removed.
frequently?
They'll be removed probably every day because they're gonna bring rocks in. There's no place to
There's no
stock them.
place, yeah.
We're gonna have to move the existing shed out of the way and then place the wall in there and build it in sections. And then basically, so whatever comes in, goes in the ground every day, and whatever's there comes out. There's no
Thank you.
place to store anything.
Thank you.
Joe?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
No question.
Anybody in the audience? Nope. Okay.
Before I close the hearing, I would recommend that you obtain all necessary required permits from boards, locals, boards, committees, commissions, and departments before work start, and that you see Mr. Bichette before anything gets started. I make a motion to close the hearing.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I make a motion, we approve the project with standard conditions, plus the requirement that all old materials be disposed of as required by all state and local laws.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Are you
Thank
having a
you.
fight?
Thank you.
I'm gonna win now.
Here, you want to roll this one in there, too? Okay, we can start the,
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protective Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaws, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, April 18th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. on the notice of intent for NBE Management Corp. in care of J.C. Engineering, 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct a new single-family dwelling, paved driveway, grading and installation of associated utilities for property located in Assessor's Map 106, Lot 30, 9 Pond Edge Trail, Wareham.
High-end homes. Very high-end.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
thank you.
The project site is at 9 Pond Edge Trail, and the project involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to isolated wetland that exists on this property. This application is being filed under the local bylaw, as this site is not jurisdictional other than relative to the local town wetland bylaw. So again, a single-family home, approximately 37 by 64 feet with attached garage is proposed. Their nearest limit of work is approximately 32 feet from the edge of the wetland. The proposed septic system is outside of the buffer zone to the wetland, as shown on the plan. There is some grade changing to be done on a good chunk of the property as seen in terms of the construction envelope. The limit of work is going to be lined with hay bales and silt fence. So with that, I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for this project.
Anything to add?
That pretty much sums it up.
Okay, questions, Sandy?
I have none.
No
Joe?
Please don't be surprised.
I am surprised. Mary?
I have no question.
Alicia?
No question.
Okay. Anybody in the public? No? Okay. All
Anybody?
set? Nobody?
Before I make a motion to close the hearing, I strongly recommend that you get all the necessary permits and approvals from boards, committees, commissions, and departments before you start work, and see Mr. Bichette before you start anything. On that, I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
I make a motion, we approve the project with the standard conditions and the use of hay bales and silk fence around the wetlands.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you for that one. You might as well stay there.
Can I say ditto, except for 3 Pine Needle Lane? Or do I want to read the whole thing? Okay. Notice of intent for NBE Management Corp., in care of JC Engineering, Inc., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Mass. 02538, to construct a new single-family dwelling, paved driveway, grading and installation of associated utilities for property located on Assessor's Map 106, Lot 35, 3 Pine Needle Lane, Wareham.
Thank you.
Again, Brad Bertola from JC Engineering.
Okay, David, when you're ready.
So again, the project is at 3 Pine Needle Lane, and this project also involves the construction of a single-family dwelling in the buffer zone to an isolated wetland. And again, this application is filed under the town wetland bylaw only. A similar-sized dwelling to the one we just reviewed, 37 by 64 feet, is proposed at this site with attached garage. In reviewing this site, I had a question about the wetland boundary that, in my opinion, needs to be further evaluated. So at this point, I would recommend we continue this hearing until we have an opportunity to further review that. Some of the wetland flags may not be accurately located, or there might be some additional areas that need to be flagged that are not flagged. So at this point, I'd like to recommend a continuance of the hearing for that to take place.
Okay, anything?
I did speak to the agent today, and surface water is a lot higher in elevation than before. We've had a lot of rainwater, so gonna try to hope to see if that dissipates and reevaluate soils and vegetation.
Okay. Questions, Sandy?
I have none.
Joe?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
No question.
Public? Oh,
I make a motion, we continue the hearing until May 2nd to give parties a chance to review the wetland flags.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Alicia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Don't want to beat you.
Anybody here for the Patricia Keels hearing? All right, they requested continuance
Make a
till...
motion, we continue until May 2nd.
Second.
Sandy's motion, Mary's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Okay. Continue notice of intent for Jan Wolverton, TR, care of Anthony Esposito. Can you just identify yourself for the record?
Jan Wolverton, applicant. Mr. Esposito is tied up at another meeting. He said he would try to make it down here if the board had any further questions for him. Last meeting, I think he put the project on display and responded to the board's questions, so I wasn't sure if there were going to be any further questions or not, or whether any butters were going to ask to speak, so.
Okay, David will highlight.
We couldn't close the hearing last time because we didn't have a DEP file number yet. Which we have, I don't know if
You got it now, yeah.
Tony gave it to you.
Okay, David will explain it.
Yeah, so the project site is at 8 Sandwich Road, and the project involves upgrading a septic system in the buffer zone to a
Bless you.
coastal bank and a salt marsh, and this is also along the Agawam River. The existing septic system is to be replaced with a new Title V nitrogen-reducing septic system. The new system would be within the existing grassed island at the property, and this would be approximately 50 feet from the top of the coastal bank. There is some minor grading to be done also around the system. As we had just heard at the last meeting, we continued this hearing because we did not have the DEP file number, which we now have, so I would recommend the issuance of the order of conditions with the standard conditions for this project.
Okay, anything to add? Okay, Sandy, questions?
My notes has something about a patch, a hole in a seawall.
Yeah, there is a crack in the seawall, and at one point, and our intention is to patch that as part of the project.
Correct? That is,
That's more or less some hand troweling of some
so,
concrete,
but it's,
yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's part of. what
would you
they
like
wanted
it
to do.
added to the conditions that are allowed to patch the hole in the seawall as part of the
Sure.
standard conditions? Thank you. I have nothing else.
No
Joe?
questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
No question.
Public?
Seeing none before I close the hearing, it's a recommendation you get all approvals by board committees, commissions, and departments before you start, and see Mr. Pichette before you start. How many do I start before? Never mind, I understand myself. I make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Further motion?
I make a motion we approve with standard conditions, plus the ability to patch the hole in the seawall manually.
Sandy's motion, Mary second. All those in favor?
Aye,
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
I have one. That's a
It's all set.
Thank you.
We got an extension request for David Jones, 20 Kennedy Street. When you're ready. Jump ahead of you.
This request is for a one-year extension to an existing order of conditions, which was for the construction of a single-family home at this site at 20 Kennedy Street in the Rose Point area. The applicant has had some financial matters that have prevented him from starting or completing. He did start some work to remove the existing home on the site, but has not been able to complete it, and is requesting a one-year extension to the order, which I would recommend that he be granted.
Wish of the board?
I make a motion we approve a one-year extension for the property, David Jones.
Second.
Sandy's motion, seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. You want to do certificates, or just keep going down the list? Okay, certificate of compliance for Peter Franklin, 75 and 77 Green Gate Lane.
It's by you, isn't it?
This order of conditions was relative to a violation that occurred at this site, which many of you, I'm sure, recall, which involved some significant clearing on the coastal bank at this property. The owners then filed an order of conditions to restore the disturbed area. They have completed the restoration work as required by the order of conditions at this time. It's been several years of work that it's taken for this to get to the end point. But they have restored things there according to the order of conditions. Obviously, the trees that were cut down have not, regrown to the original height that they were, but the site is stabilized. So at this point, I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for the project.
Didn't we at this site have put in a new septic system, but that's not part of this compliance?
That's correct.
So that it's just restoring the coastal bank?
Right.
I make a motion, we approve the certification of compliance.
Sandy's motion, Alicia second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All set. Certificate of compliance for Erin and Michael Schaff, 6 Valley Road.
This project site at 6 Valley Road in Onset involved the installation of a new water line in the buffer zone to wetlands at this location. The project, again, has been completed according to the order of conditions, so I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for this project.
Wish of the board.
I make a motion, we approve the certificate of compliance for 6 Valley Road. Second.
Sandy's motion, Alicia second. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. You set? You ready? Certificate of compliance for Cape Cod Realty LLC, 17 Kendrick Road.
This project I would like to postpone. There's still some outstanding issues that need to be addressed, so I'm not ready to recommend a certificate of compliance for this. So I'd like to hold off on that one until the next meeting.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Buzzards Bay Coalition for the CR. Is anybody here to discuss that?
That was left on the agenda because I wasn't sure if they were going to come back to this meeting or the next meeting, so looks like they're not here, so we'll just hold off on that discussion at this point.
How about the discussion for the land trust?
Yes,
He's
someone's
here.
here for that.
Wareham Land Trust? For Stony Run?
Yes,
600 Main Street?
600 Main Street. This is a project that's on the town warrant.
Sorry, Nancy, can you tell us who you are, please?
Sure, I'm Nancy McHale, I'm with the treasurer of the Wareham Land Trust. I just have a couple of handouts for
you.
you
Thank
to reacquaint you with this project. It's been,
Joe and I will share.
Here.
Joe and I will share.
okay, it's been a year in the process, so sorry about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. As you know, this property is on the spring town meeting warrant. Hopefully, we'll get a favorable vote on that and be able to go forward with it. What I wanted to do tonight was just talk with you because the project is going to need to have a CR on it. in order to be completed. And I wanted to make sure that the Conservation Commission was on board with being the holder of that CR, and if there were any questions or comments or things that you would like in the CR or not in the CR before we spend time and energy doing that whole application. The state process has changed, and it is a much lengthy. It takes longer to get the CRs through the state at this point than it used to. It may take up to 3 months or so. So in order for us to be as efficient as possible, we'd really kind of like to get it on board as quickly as we can. Okay? Any comments, questions?
Were you planning to put parking on this site?
What we would like to do is retain the option for parking. There's, believe it or not, there's a Healthy Communities grant through the EPA that has come up and has caught our attention, and it would allow for permeable surfaces and handicapped accessible trails through there, which would then be able to be used by the nursing home that's right near there, and would be a really nice place for the elders and the disabled in order to be able to walk in
But
the
that
area.
handicapped accessible would only be used on the Stony Run. You can't get them across the railroad tracks.
Absolutely,
Okay, so-
absolutely. Yeah,
Right,
it
it's a
would be
limited trail.
a more limited trail, but we would really like to be able to retain the option to have parking on the site, okay?
David has a question.
Okay.
No, I was just going to ask, at this point, there's probably not a draft CR in place because you got to wait till town meeting takes place and then.
Absolutely. This is bringing having the conversation about whether or not you have any particular feelings one way or another about it. Because it takes so long to get through the state, if indeed you said, nope, we're not holding this CR, you need to find somebody else. We really would need to be finding somebody else to hold it at this point. So I'm doing basically a sanity check and getting a few ducks in a row.
Nancy, under the Great Neck Road CR we just saw last week, under passive recreation, it would allow hunting. Would it be stipulation in this CR that no hunting would be allowed on Stony Run?
Yeah, there would be no hunting allowed because of the proximity
To
of,
the, but specifically stated in the CR?
we can state that in.
Because I
if you
know
want.
it was placed in the Great Neck Road CR, and I was quite surprised at that, so. I think of all the restrictions that are there, that's the only one that bothered me. That it allowed hunting.
Oh, okay. It's like, okay, no, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that it bothered you that there was no hunting.
No.
Okay.
Anything else?
No,
Joe?
No questions.
Mary?
No question.
Alicia?
no question.
Anybody in the public?
We don't have on our agenda to vote to hold a CR, but this is just a discussion point.
This is
Yep.
just a discussion and a conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why the commission necessarily would say that they wouldn't want to hold the CR, but, that's my opinion. The
Okay.
board can discuss that as time goes on.
Okay. Thank you so much. See you later.
See
Appreciate your help.
you Saturday
Absolutely.
at the bees.
At the Pollinator Expo.
Well, I'm calling them bees.
Well, the butterfly people would
Oh,
be.
that's true. That I eliminated them.
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club, 10 to 1,
10 to 1. There's
Saturday.
On Saturday at 11 o'clock, the Plymouth County entomologist is going to be giving a presentation.
Thank you, I thought you
Not
would
to
like
be
a dig
missed.
for that one. A little support for that program.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
All right. Discussion for Winship LLC and RDA. I want to just remind people that has already been That hearing has already been closed. Any discussion will be just amongst the board members, and we make a decision. This is our 21-day decision. You can ask.
Is it, I don't intend to comment, but is it possible to ask questions as to procedure?
What? Go ahead.
For example, if anybody in the neighborhood wishes to appeal the final outcome of this hearing, do we do that through you? How do we go about it?
Yeah, so once the decision is issued, then there's an appeal period, and the appeal is made to the Department of Environmental Protection, and it could also be made under the town's wetland bylaw. So there's two separate laws that would, if you wanted to appeal both, would have to be done through separate appeals.
Also, it's interesting to know, and I didn't know this until I found out recently, that the clear-cut site is in a floodplain zone. Your board has no authority on what takes place in a floodplain zone. I mean, we're talking about digging up stumps, trucking in fill. What authority is there to oversee that procedure is done in accordance with the law?
Well, again, that's why we had a hearing in the first place, because work was being proposed in a flood zone. So that was the reason why we had a hearing in the first place.
But your explanation was that your authority had to do with the wetlands and you need to protect that lower area that's clearly wetland, and that there may be some need to further delineate those wetlands and add protective barriers in that regard. But not the wetland, but the site that was cut is floodplain. I don't understand these things very well, so I'm just asking questions and guidance, seeking guidance from you guys as to what I and others in the neighborhood can do to be assured that that site is going to be stable, that the dirt that's going to be trucked in, if it's trucked in, is going to be in accordance with the specifics of regulations relating to fill.
Well, I can,
Whose authority is that, and if that's, can you guide us as to where do we go?
I can guide you on,
Questions.
right, I can guide you on the appeal process, but any other sorts of questions I could answer outside the meeting, but the hearing's closed, so we really can't get into the specifics of anything else on the project.
But if floodplain does come within your authority for a variety of reasons, why didn't your board ask the appropriate questions as to what was going to be done on that site and if the floodplain was going to be given adequate protection?
Well, again,
Does that
the
have to
board,
come from neighbors, or
no, the board,
part of your responsibility to ask answers? to
right, it is the board's responsibility, and the board did review the applicable regulations relative to floodplains, which there really aren't any in the wetland regs. Okay, there's really no performance standards for that particular resource area. So there may be in other boards or other rules or laws, but relative to the wetland laws, there's really no specific standards that have to be met for that.
Well,
Again,
giving
we shouldn't get
consideration
into
to
this
concerned
discussion. This
citizens,
is beyond, this should be
It's
outside
certainly-
the meeting. This is beyond.
is certainly aware of how to point us in the right direction, and as this process went along, it would have been helpful if your board gave us some indication as to how to proceed to get answers to the concerns that we have. You're going to be seriously altering a floodplain zone, and there are those of us who have wells right near there. How are we going to know and be sure that that area is stabilized in such a way that there's not going to be any adverse consequences to the neighborhood?
Well, he explained to you your appeal process as far as the wetlands, that little wetland area that's being addressed. And any other discussion on this It has to be done outside this meeting, because the meeting, the hearing is closed. I mean, I gave you a few minutes to ask her questions, and that's just a courtesy. But I gotta cut it off. I'm gonna cut it off right here.
Yeah, if you have further questions, I can talk to you after the meeting if you have questions.
Can I just ask one clarifying question? Is the work that's being done under this board's discretion, or is that under a different board's discretion for pulling stumps and?
It could be under several boards, yes.
Okay. Sandy, you got anything to say?
Just to clarify that this is vegetation cutting, cleanup, and removal of stumps proposed at the site. I don't see anything here about adding fill. Just from my point of view, it's just removing the stumps and making the land safe to use.
Did I tell you where I got that information?
No. I'm just reading from the application, just to make sure that I remember what it is.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, regarding the filling, trucking of fill,
Johnny,
I was told that by David.
I gotta cut you off.
You know,
You can,
we're citizens here.
come,
We gotta
yeah, I realize that.
help us.
Go to,
I'm asking for help.
go to his office, and he can explain it all to you.
Pulling teeth for you guys, trying to get a little help.
Joe?
Nothing.
Mary?
No further questions.
Alicia? David, you got anything else to add?
No.
Okay, then we have to,
We cannot require the applicant to go to various boards, committees, and commissions or departments to get approval, because we cannot, because it's outside of our purview, but it would be recommended that all approvals be obtained before work starts, and before any work is started, see Mr. Pichette. Based on the hearing being closed, I make a recommendation that we approve with a -2, and that the hay bales and silt fences and erosion control be in place prior to any work.
That's healthy. We've accomplished something here. Thank you. That'll help us. At least we got peace of mind that something is gonna be done before the stumps get removed. All of us have the same problem. We're living in an area of high taxes, very valuable property, and our area is a disaster. I hope you can appreciate that.
We have a motion on the floor.
Sandy's motion,
Second.
seconded by Mary. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstentions? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, do you want this? You got a copy already? I got it, but I'll take an extra.
Yeah, you can have that one too. No, we
No.
won't, but that's okay. It's done.
Couple more to go.
It's done. Control burn, you're gonna talk about that too, right, David?
Ice cream stuff.
You're gonna talk about the control burn?
That's your choice.
Okay, if you're gonna have a discussion, I ask you to please leave the room so we can finish our business. Thank you. Okay, David?
Yep.
David's got a discussion on a controlled burn project at the Lyman Reserve.
So I just wanted to bring this to the commission's attention. Over at the Lyman Conservation Reserve on Red Brook, between Wareham and Plymouth.
Thank you.
There's a proposal to do some controlled burns over at that particular property as a means of both forestry management and wildlife habitat improvement. So this is something that's being done through a forest management plan, so we're not necessarily going to get a filing before this board, even though some of the work may be near wetlands. So when somebody has a project that's approved under a forest management plan, that exempts them from having to get permitting from the Conservation Commission. So dates for this haven't been 100% identified yet, but it would be sometime, obviously, before the summer hits, as when they're proposing to do this. When I get more details on those dates, I'll let you know, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention, so if you saw smoke billowing out of this area, you wouldn't be wondering why that is. So anyway, that's why I had that on the agenda. And if anybody has any questions or wants to be apprised of the specific dates, because you might want to go down there and check it out, just let me know and I will give you as much info as I have on it.
Okay.
And I,
Kenny, which side of the road are they gonna be doing that on? Is it gonna be on the shore side, or is it gonna be on the wood side?
both, actually. They're doing some on
They
both.
just got done with a Pine Barren type of project on the shore side.
Right, so they are proposing some burning on the shore side. And then they've got, I think there's 3 to 4 different areas that they're gonna do burns in.
'Cause I see some of the benefits of that stuff, I'm just kinda cautious of it, like down, the other spot down there off of Great Neck. The clearing and stuff like that, I just don't want them to run with that type of thing. It's that eradicating all trees and brush and stuff.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I was just sort of concerned because we haven't really seen something like this done, at least to my recollection, anytime in the recent past. Maybe some of you who've been around more than I have can recall it, but I don't recall ever seeing that in the time I've
No,
worked
it's
here.
just been in the past 3 years, it's been,
Well, the DEP had stopped it, because I know with the fire department, all the years I was on the fire department, we used to do controlled burns all the time. We'd go burn off people's fields and stuff like that. And they stopped all of that because of the smoke and the pollutants and stuff. So they're starting to do it again. They find it's easier to do it that way than
this last
going
time
there
was,
with machinery.
yeah, 'cause the last time I was out down at the Lyman's on the, opposite the shore side, once you go up the trail and stuff like that, it looks like that was, they had a fire up there, probably maybe about 10 years ago.
There was a fire that went through there when I was younger, yeah. Okay, we don't have anything, you all done?
Yes.
We don't have anything with reappointments, other than we got a couple of associate openings, if you know any friends.
Done?
Steward restrictions, stewardship, you got anything to report on that?
No.
No bills?
Then I make a motion, we close at 7:54.
Sandy's motion to adjourn, seconded by Mary Ann Delisha. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Good night. You can shut it down.